Exposed at my son's wedding. The heartwarming truth behind why I gave back my gift and left. John stood in the vibrant afternoon light, dressed in his best suit, feeling the warmth of pride swell within him as he glanced around the reception hall. The air buzzed with laughter and shared memories, sweetened by the scent of homemade pies cooling on the windowsills. It was a day of celebration, where friends and family gathered to honor his son Jake, on this milestone of love and commitment. Yet, often overlooked was the undercurrent of tension swirling just beneath the surface, hinted at by the glacial glare of his wealthier brother Mike. The glow of string lights cast a golden hue on smiling faces, while tables bloomed with flowers reminiscent of American traditions honoring love, dedication, and the simple beauty of family. John couldn't help but smile, wiping away a tear as he beamed at Jake, radiant alongside his beautiful bride. He felt a tinge of nostalgia, thinking back to the long nights he had spent raising Jake alone after returning from the war. It was a humble life, gritty in moments, but rich with lessons about hard work and integrity. Suddenly, Mike's presence overshadowed that joy. Clad in designer clothes and dripping with self-assurance, he sauntered over, a smirk dancing on his lips. He cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the happy crowd. "Jake," he beamed, handing over a lavish envelope. "A little something from your uncle to help with the wedding." John's heart plummeted. He felt the pride seep from him like the fading light of day. He recognized the entanglement that came with such generosity, strings tied around their family's honor and dignity. This was exploitation masked as kindness, a reminder of how wealth had strained their connection over the years. He could practically hear the whispers around him, a chorus of disbelief as they registered what was happening. Before he knew it, words tumbled from his lips. "No, Jake. I'm sorry." Gasps echoed throughout the hall, echoing the disbelief on Mike's face. John's breath quickened as he fought the tide of emotions crashing over him. "We don't need charity, especially with conditions. Not today." The atmosphere thickened, tension crackling like electricity. As guests exchanged bewildered glances, the music faded, replaced by a heart-stopping silence. John's heart raced with a fierce mix of pride and panic. It was a bold stand against entitlement, against the kind of wealth that jeopardized Jake's understanding of hard work and true value. Yet, beneath his resolve, anxiety gnawed at him. Would this alienate his son on the happiest day of his life? Before they knew it, Mike stood opposing him, hurt simmering beneath the surface. "You don't want Jake to have a good start? Is that your message?" His voice dripped with disbelief and disappointment. Outside, the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows as the laughter faded like a distant memory. John wrestled with the reality that his brave act might be a catalyst for destruction, rather than the deepening of family bonds. Would Jake understand? Would he see the lesson behind his father's words or view him as an embarrassment? An uncomfortable hush fell over the crowd, with whispers barely audible, a collective tension that threatened to rupture everything. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken truths and unresolved conflicts. Just as John began to doubt his choices, a voice cut through the silence. "What do we really value? Is it what we have or who we are?" It hung in the air, haunting yet hopeful, leaving John's heart racing and the crowd shivering with anticipation. And that instant, John recognized the precarious cliff on which his family stood. Would they prioritize love and integrity above wealth? Or would this moment mark the beginning of deeper divides? The question lingered, the future writ large with uncertainty. John's heart thundered in his chest, and as he scanned the crowd, he felt the weight of every gaze. This wasn't just about him or Mike. It was about his son, his only son, standing at the front of the hall, face pale but eyes sparkling with hope and love for his bride. Everything he had worked for, everything he sacrificed, seemed to hang in this delicate balance. "Dad," Jake's voice broke through the tension, trembling yet steady. "What are you saying?" The room fell even quieter, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. First John faltered but pressed on. "I'm saying that you deserve better than a simple handout in a fancy envelope, Jake. You deserve to build your own future, your own life through your own hard work. That's what I want for you. That's what I'm standing for." Mike stepped forward, disbelief etched deeply into his face. "You know I'm trying to help, John. Why can't you just accept that? You've always had trouble accepting help." "Help?" John cried, the fire within him igniting. "What you call help feels like a crutch to me. You might have money to throw around, Mike, but it doesn't make you better than us. The crowd murmured as they began to understand the depth of his emotions. Jake shifted, a mix of anger and confusion on his face. So this is how it's gonna be? You're making my wedding about your issues with Uncle Mike? No, John countered, almost pleading. He stepped closer, desperate to connect. I'm making it about what really matters. This isn't a day for inherited wealth but a celebration of true love. That's what I fought for every day. Don't let money define this moment. As he spoke, John felt the frozen emotions in his chest begin to thaw. There was something liberating about speaking his truth aloud. Surrounding them, family members exchanged glances, some nodding in silent agreement while others hesitated. Suddenly, a soft voice rose from a corner of the hall. I believe in the value of hard work too, but we can be grateful and humble about receiving help when it's given with love. It was Jake's bride, Lily, her eyes shining with compassion. Those words hung in the air, sending ripples of thought throughout the room. Could they find a middle ground? Could family love outshine the tenuous bonds of wealth? John's chest tightened and he turned to Lily. It's not the help, it's the conditions it's wrapped in. We can't start on a foundation that isn't built on trust. The whiplash of emotions ricocheted through the hall as Mike spat back. You're too proud, John. Just admit you're scared of change. Scared? John was tired of battles that cost too much and made his family suffer. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, holding on to the hope that Jake would see the sense in what he was saying. Jake rubbed the back of his neck, caught between two ideals, the love for his father and the bond with his uncle, who always indulged him. It was a web of loyalty and obligation that tangled tighter with each passing moment. Son, John said softly, voice breaking, you decide what kind of man you'll be, what values you'll carry into your marriage. I just want you to see your worth goes beyond any dollar sign. Tears welled in Jake's eyes, and John could almost hear the gears clicking in his mind. Suddenly Mike huffed, crossing his arms. You want to play St. John? Then let us see how long you can hold on to that pride when life gets tough. The challenge stung, and the tension bristled like static in the air. John's pulse quickened as uncertainty gripped him. Had he genuinely made a mistake by saying no? As honored guests turned to each other's murmurs, John felt a shift, as if the very foundation of their family was being reshaped right before his eyes. But would it be a change for better or for worse? Just then, among the guests, an unexpected figure stepped forward, drawing eyes and attention like a spotlight, a woman John hadn't seen in years, with a weathered face full of stories. The crowd fell silent as she approached the unfolding scene. Are you sure you know what really matters? She asked, her voice steady, striking a chord of curiosity deep within everyone present. The air shifted again, thick with uncertainty and possibility, as John turned to face her fully, heart racing, uncertain of what revelations awaited him next. The woman stepped closer, her eyes locking onto John's, and for a moment, it felt like time itself had paused. Recognition washed over him, followed by disbelief. It was Claire, his childhood friend, the one who had shared his dreams long before money and pride divided their paths. He hadn't seen her in years, yet here she was, cutting through the chaos with a voice that commanded attention. Claire. John managed, his voice hoarse. The memories flooded back, lazy summer days filled with laughter, and the dreams of building something meaningful, something true. The room was still, expectant. Mike shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsettled by this unexpected interruption. Jake's brow furrowed, caught somewhere between confusion and relief at the sudden change in the atmosphere. Yes, it's me, Claire replied firmly, but her eyes softened, and I think we all need to take a step back. Her gaze darted around, absorbing the tension that hung in the air. John, I know you've always been proud, but sometimes pride and stubbornness can lock us inside a cage of our own making. Cage? John shot back defensively. I'm trying to stand up for my son. For what's right. She held up her hands in a calming gesture. I know that. I know your heart, John. But you're fighting battles that don't need to be fought today. This is a day for love. Love brings us together. Jake looked at his father, his expression shifting, and for the first time, John felt like he was losing his son, losing him to the lure of wealth and material promises. Do you really believe that, Dad? Jake asked, emotion bubbling up. Do you believe love can survive all this? Love can survive absolutely anything, Claire interjected. But love isn't pride. It's reaching out with open hands, accepting the connections we have. Her voice, while soft, rang with authority, breaking through the haze of tension with every word. The crowd seemed to breathe in, filling the air with hopeful anticipation. John felt a heavy weight lifting from his chest, though he didn't quite know why. Maybe it was Claire's presence. Maybe it was something deeper, a realization that he needed to stop pushing against the currents and let the day unfold in its own way. I want strength and independence for you, Jake, John said, more calmly now, letting the anger seep out. I don't disagree with the values you've been taught. You can choose your own path. I only hope it leads you to something real. Mike stepped in, a smirk on his lips, seeming ready for a rebuttal. And how do you plan to teach him that if you keep rejecting what I offer? Support doesn't equal weakness. Maybe John shot back, surprise fueling his words. But strength lies in the ability to say no when it's needed. My son needs to build his foundation, not stand on mine. As Claire moved closer, she placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. You don't have to decide right now either. Just remember that the love in your marriage is what counts. Everything else is just noise. A subtle warmth spread through the crowd, echoes of their shared histories mixing with the present moment. Jake looked back at his father, then at Lily, who was silently supporting him, her eyes shimmering with understanding. With the tension slowly dissipating, John dared to catch his breath. Maybe today wasn't just about conflicts or wealthy handouts. It could be a reconciliation, a chance to feel the love that held them all together. Then, Claire leaned in closer, lowering her voice but keeping her intensity. But sometimes it takes a shock to the system to reveal what's really important, John. Jake's eyes widened, realization dawning on him. The crowd looked on with rapt attention as John felt a new pulse of anxiety, wondering just how deep Claire's revelations would go. What do you mean? He asked, barely able to form the words. With a brief, knowing smile, Claire stood poised, ready to share whatever truths lay hidden, secrets that might change everything on this crucial day. Would they be ready to face whatever came next? Claire took a deep breath, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. John, I came here today because I heard some things. Things that made me realize this wedding isn't just about Jake and Lily. It's about all of us reclaiming what's been lost. She glanced around the room, her voice steady though her eyes shimmered with emotion. Love exists in the shadows of our pride and fears. We just need to bring it out into the light. The crowd was hushed. Even Mike, who had been so eager to stake his claim, fell silent. John could feel a knot forming in his stomach, a mix of dread and curiosity. What do you mean? He repeated, forcing the question out through clenched teeth. Claire hesitated for a moment, collecting her thoughts. Jake, do you remember the summer we all spent together? The plans we made? Jake nodded slowly, as if tracing back to the laughter and innocence of their youth. Yeah, we dreamed big, he said quietly. And do you remember the promise we made? That love would always be at the center of our choices? Her gaze held Jake's, fierce yet filled with warmth. John, you taught him that with your actions, but somewhere along the way life clouded those lessons. A murmur swept through the crowd, as John instinctively squared his shoulders. This isn't the place maybe it should be. Claire interrupted, her voice rising gently but carrying weight. What has happened to that unconditional love? The kind that lets us forgive? This day should be celebrated for what it is, a union, not a battlefield. John felt the walls around him shaking, and he worried about what little grip he had left on this situation. Like you've always held the blueprint for my life? He struggled to keep his tone even, but the emotion started to seep through. Claire took a step closer, her resolve shining. This isn't about past grievances, John. This is a chance to embrace what matters, the future our children deserve. But to do that, we must first confront our own failures. Jake shifted, his gaze darting back and forth between John and Claire. What failures? What are we missing? He implored, confusion etched on his young face. Sometimes we hand over our dreams thinking they're gifts. Claire turned back to John. And sometimes we take so much that we forget why we were giving in the first place. A heavy silence blanketed the room. It was a moment where hearts beat louder than words. John's breaths became shallow as he faced the reality of Claire's words. Gifts, he echoed. You think I gave Jake a gift? I think you gave him your love at one point and wrapped it up like it was something he could trade. Claire's voice trembled. But love is meant to be set free, not negotiated like a contract. Suddenly, the tension in Jake's body seemed to uncoil. His confusion morphed into something deeper, a desire to understand. "What are you saying, Mom?" Claire's eyes bore into John's, unflinching. "I'm saying that today is a chance for all of us to reclaim the love we've lost. John, you need to ask yourself what truly matters. The facade? Or the family that's right in front of you?" The question hung there unanswered, but John felt it like a physical blow. Claire's smile softened, brimming with reassurance. "It's never too late. We can still rebuild, John, if we're brave enough to let go." John stood there frozen. He felt as if the ground beneath him was shifting, reforming into something he couldn't recognize. All eyes were on him. He glanced at Jake, who was waiting, holding on to her every word, and at Lily, who looked ready to support whatever decision he might make. The doubt in his chest wrestled with a dawning light. Could he really leap into this unknown? "What if I don't know how?" he whispered, looking up at Claire, whose presence felt like a lifeline. Then she smiled wide, the kind that reminded him of a scorching summer sun breaking through clouds. "Start with honesty, John. That's the first step." They all awaited his reply, the room filled with a magnetic tension. But before he could respond, the venue shook with laughter from guests outside, reminding them all of the joyous celebration they were meant to be part of. But those easy smiles felt like a distant world as John grappled with the weight of the moment. Jake's breath quickened beside him, and John realized that this wasn't just about what he was going to say. It was about acknowledging all they had to lose. What would he choose? And what would be the next revelation that would unfold for each of them? John stood at the center of the storm, a whirlwind of emotions swirling around him. The laughter from outside seemed to mock the tension that hung heavy in the air. His heart raced, each beat echoing Claire's insistence that love should be transparent, uncomplicated. He opened his mouth to speak, but silence wrapped around him like a suffocating blanket. "Dad?" Jake's voice broke through the haze, a hesitant tremor cutting through the chaos. "What's going on? Are you okay?" The sincerity in Jake's eyes jolted John back to reality. He could see the boy he once knew, hopeful and bright, blink back at him. Yes, this was his son standing right there waiting. He realized in that moment that the choice wasn't about Claire or their past, it was about Jake, and the future they could create together. "Jake," he faltered, the words caught in his throat. He glanced quickly to Claire, who held her breath, wishing for him to let go of the weight he had carried for too long. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought I knew what was best." A chorus of whispers reverberated in the room. The confusion on Jake's face deepened. "Protecting me from what?" "From love, Jake." The admission tumbled out before he could grasp it. "I thought by keeping my distance, by wrapping love in conditions, I was saving you from pain. But what I was really doing was building a wall." As John spoke, he felt the knot in his chest begin to loosen. This was the first thread of healing, a small pattern emerging from his chaos. Claire's fierce gaze softened, her eyes glistening with hope. "Love isn't a transaction," John continued, his voice stronger now. "It's a gift we give freely. I think I forgot that. I thought the more control I had over my feelings and my expectations, the safer you'd be." Jake's eyes widened. "So you've been afraid?" The realization struck his young face. A mixture of sadness and understanding swirled together. "But Dad, I don't want a perfect life. I just want you to be honest with me." The room fell silent, wide-eyed with the sudden shift in energy. For the first time, John wasn't talking about the past or making excuses. He was simply laying bare his heart. "I've made mistakes, Jake. So many of them. But I want to start fresh. I want you to know that it's okay to trust your heart and let it guide you." Lily, an observer throughout this emotional eruption, stepped forward, her face reflecting the power of their moment. "John, it's never too late. Our lives have been a bit messy, but we can clean it up together. We can create something beautiful. But what does that even look like?" John felt the doubt creeping in once more. "Honesty," Claire whispered, nodding with a smile that conveyed both strength and vulnerability. "Transparency. Starting today, we choose to be who we truly are, flawed but willing." Jake nodded in agreement, his youthful face lighting up the room. "I want to know you, Dad. Just you. No walls, no conditions." John felt the rush of tears threaten to spill. This was it, the moment he never realized he needed. He had been standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump into the unknown, but now he understood he wouldn't fall. They would catch each other. The applause erupted as the guests cheered from outside, but it felt far away, like the sound of a distant celebration. They were forging connections that transcended the afternoon. They were building the family they all desired. But just as the air thickened with newfound hope, a shadow flickered at the edge of the emotion she had just unveiled. John turned, feeling the shift, seeing the uncertainty on Claire's face. What if this wasn't enough? What if they couldn't turn back? Claire. His voice trailed off, uncertain yet laced with urgency. What if we're still too broken? The anticipation hung thick again, leaving them all breathless. In a world filled with questions, John realized he had opened the door to uncharted territory. Could they ever truly reclaim what had been lost? Or was the past too entrenched to overcome? The future lay open before him, but the answers felt out of reach. The room felt electric as thoughts, fears, and memories ricocheted around them. Claire's face flickered with a mixture of hope and doubt. John had laid himself bare, but now the weight of their uncertainties hung like a heavy fog. He had pulled back the curtain on his emotions, but could Claire walk through it with him? John, Claire said, her voice trembling. She took a step forward, desperately wanting to bridge the gap between them. You're not broken. We're all just a little cracked. Her attempt to lighten the moment felt genuine, yet a fragile uncertainty wove through her words. Jake's brow furrowed. You both keep saying that, but what does that even mean? It means, Claire replied, her gaze shifting to Jake, that we've all made mistakes, and we're learning to be better. She turned back to John. But if we want to mend things, we need to embrace our imperfections. John swallowed hard. There was something profoundly brave about facing the uncomfortable truth. I don't want to hide from mistakes anymore from either of you. His voice broke slightly, looking at Jake, then back to Claire. But I'm scared. I'm scared it will hurt me, Jake. I don't want to hurt any of you. Claire stepped closer, her warmth reaching him. Love has never promised not to hurt, John. She paused, her breath steadying. But it's worth the risk when it's real. What if, Jake interjected, his youthful innocence shining through? What if we mess up again? What if it never works out? Silence stretched in the air like a taut rope. Then we try again, Claire said firmly, her eyes shining with determination. We hold each other accountable, we keep talking. No more walls. John felt something shift inside him. He glanced at Jake, who looked ready to take on the world. The boy's open heart reminded him that life was built on second chances. You know, Jake, he admitted, I was so focused on protecting you that I didn't realize I was pushing you away. I thought if I anticipated the worst, I could save you. Jake shook his head, his voice steady. It wasn't about that, Dad. I just wanted you to be here, really here. The gentle pleading tone in Jake's words washed over John like a balm. I'm here now, he whispered, navigating the conversation towards the emotional depths. Claire regarded John closely, her heart echoing Jake's sentiment when she said, being here means showing up fully. It means being vulnerable. No more pretending. But doubt crept in again, causing John's heart to race. What if I don't know how? Then we learn together. Claire's voice was soft yet resolute, compelling him to take that leap. You've taken the first step, John. Vulnerability is frightening, but the trust that grows from it is so much stronger. Suddenly, a thought flickered in John's mind, a glimmer of hope. He took a deep breath. Maybe we don't have to have it all figured out today. Maybe we just focus on today. Yeah, Jake chimed in, grinning. Like, tell each other one thing we appreciate about each other. The suggestion hung in the air, lightening the palpable tension. Underneath it all, laughter drifted in from the garden, a reminder of what awaited them outside a party celebrating love, connection, and moments of truth. As they turned to the opening that led outside, a portal to laughter and togetherness, John felt a warmth spread across his chest. Hope surged as he took a step forward, ready to embrace the uncertain future. But just as they were about to cross the threshold, Claire halted, her expression suddenly serious. John, she said, her voice low. There's something you need to know, something I've never told you. His heart stuttered at her words, a rush of anticipation flooding through him. The future may lay open with possibilities, but this new revelation felt like more than just a shape on the horizon. Was it another hurdle, or a thread that would finally tie them all together? John's breath caught in his throat. The air thickened with tension, every heartbeat echoing in his ears. Claire's gaze held a mix of fear and resolve, and he could sense the weight of her secret pressing down on them all. "What is it?" he asked, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Claire took a deep breath, her fingers nervously smoothing down the fabric of her dress. It's about my past, our past. Everything's been intertwined in ways I haven't fully shared." Jake's eyes darted between them, the innocent curiosity of a boy caught in a grown-up storm. "Mom, you can tell us. We're all cracked, right? We can handle it." John felt a swell of pride for Jake, but it was mingled with worry. What could Claire possibly say that would shake the foundation they were trying to build? "I thought I could keep it to myself," Claire said, her voice quivering. "But it's been heavy on my heart. I need you both to understand." She paused, swallowing hard. "When I said love has never promised not to hurt, I meant it. I've been hurt before in ways that shaped me, shaped how I view love now. And that's why I've held back, why I kept the walls up." John's chest tightened. "What happened, Claire?" She took another deep breath, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Years ago, I fell in love with someone. He was everything to me, and then he left. No explanation, just gone. It left scars. I was scared of it happening again, scared of allowing myself to love fully." John absorbed her words, replaying the moments since they met, every laugh, every argument, every quiet night. Had she carried this burden all along? "I thought I had moved on," Claire continued, her voice growing stronger. "But then I met you, John. The walls came crashing down, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I thought if I kept some distance, if I held back, I could protect me. Protect us?" John interrupted gently, urgency in his tone. "But that's just it, Claire. We can't build love on fear. What you shared, your past, it's part of who you are. I don't want you to hide that from me." Claire's expression softened, strangely relieved. "I wanted to tell you. I really did. But I didn't know how you'd react. I've kept it locked away for so long that I thought maybe it was safer there." Jake shifted forward, a step too close to the precipice of adult understanding. "You're not alone, Mom. We can face stuff together. Just like you told me." Claire knelt down to Jake's level, her hands gently cradling his cheeks. "You're right, sweetheart. I guess I was forgetting the lessons I wanted to teach you." Her smile was weak but genuine, and John felt something shift in the room once more. "Maybe we should all share," John suggested, his heart swelling with uncharacteristic bravery. "What if we each say something we keep inside? Something we're afraid of that stops us from moving forward?" Silence enveloped them, a thick blanket of possibility. Claire's eyes sparkled like stars as she searched his face. "Okay," she breathed, "but I'm scared." "So am I," he admitted, squeezing her hand. "But we can't keep this weight. We owe it to ourselves to be free." Jake nodded enthusiastically, his innocence a beacon in the dimly lit room. "Yeah, let us do it. It'll be like a family secret, but in a good way." They all gathered closer, three souls intertwined by cracks and vulnerabilities, ready to reshape their story anew. Just as Claire opened her mouth to speak, the sounds of laughter and joy erupted from the garden, cutting through their moment like a knife. They paused, glancing towards the door, laughter fusing the air with warmth and new beginnings. "Let us finish this later," John said, taking it all in. "We'll find a way to embrace the imperfections." He could feel the joyous energy buzzing at their door. It beckoned them in, all while urging them to let go of the past with gentle urgency. But before they took the final step outside, Claire's expression shifted again, her eyes flaring with a sudden thought. "Wait, there's one more thing you both should know." John's heart raced anew, the possibilities whirring in his mind. What could she reveal next? Was it another layer to uncover? Or perhaps a truth that would shatter their newfound foundation? The world outside seemed to dim, pulling them into this moment once more. Claire hesitated, the weight of her next words hanging in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. "Before anything else, I need to tell you that I've been keeping secrets I thought I could manage alone." John felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "What do you mean?" She took a faltering step back, as if the words were pushing her away. "Remember when I mentioned I thought I could protect us?" She glanced at Jake, who was now looking back and forth with concern. "Part of that meant hiding things not just about my past but about my future. About my family. The reason I'm cautious. It's more complicated than I realized." John exchanged a glance with Jake, his heart racing. What are you talking about, Claire? There was a flicker of determination in her eyes that hadn't been there before, as if the moment had finally come for her to take a stand. I have a brother. We were close when we were kids, but we lost touch after everything our family fell apart. A brother? John echoed, trying to wrap his mind around this new revelation. Why didn't you tell us? Because he's involved in something dangerous. Something I thought I could keep away from you and Jake. Claire's voice trembled slightly. I thought by keeping my past hidden I could shield us, but the truth is, hiding it has only made it worse. Jake moved even closer to his mom, sensing something serious brewing. Are we in danger? He asked, his voice a mixture of fear and courage. Claire knelt beside him, brushing a curl away from his forehead. I don't think so, love. But the world isn't as simple as it seems. I never wanted to drag you both into my old life. But things are starting to surface and I can't just pretend anymore. John couldn't take it in all at once, the layers of her past overwhelming him. What does he want? Her breath hitched. He is trying to reconnect, but he is also involved in things that could put us at risk. I've been ignoring his calls, hoping he'd just fade away. But he won tea. And now I have to decide whether to face him or to cut ties completely. Silence unfurled around them, each heartbeat echoing with uncertainty. The laughter from outside seemed to fade into a distant hum, a reminder of what existed beyond this tangled web. Claire, you can't face this alone, John whispered, his hand resting over hers. We can deal with it together. If we keep sharing, we can find a way. I know, she said, tears pooling in her eyes. But you don't understand the depth of what could come. This isn't just family drama. It's a real threat. Jake remained silent, his childlike innocence now laced with the heaviness of adult worries. Mom, we're here for you. Just tell us what to do. Claire swallowed back the lump in her throat, feeling an unexpected swell of warmth from their support. All right. Just promise me whatever happens, we face it as a team. Their hands joined in a tight circle, three hearts bound together by shared fears, and the promise of facing the unknown as one. Just then, the sound of voices and laughter erupted from the garden again, pulling at them, tempting them with joy. Claire glanced towards the door, yet she knew they had to confront the storm brewing in their lives first. One last thing, Claire said, her tone shifting, a new layer of resolve awakening. I can't hide him from you anymore. If I choose to face my brother, you both need to be prepared for his arrival. John's heart raced. The stakes were suddenly higher. When will he come? Claire's eyes closed momentarily, as if she could have a glimpse of the future. I don't know, but I feel it coming. And it's going to change everything. Her words hung in the air, a precarious balance of anxiety and hope. As they shared anxious glances, John felt the weight of Claire's past pressing heavily upon them. This wasn't just about secrets, it was about roots, connections, and the fortitude to unravel the web woven around them. Suddenly, just as they prepared to step outside, Claire's phone buzzed on the table. They all froze, the screen illuminating a name that made Claire's heart skip. Her brother's name. What would it mean for their fragile family? Would they stay strong? Or would this confrontation bring everything crashing down? The room was thick with tension as Claire's heart raced. She thought she was ready to face her brother. After all these years of hiding, wasn't it better to confront her past? But now, staring at her phone, she felt the ground shift beneath her. Claire. John's voice cut through her thoughts. You need to answer it. She looked at him, uncertainty swirling in her mind. What if it's not good? What if he is dangerous? Jake tugged at her sleeve. Mom, you said we would face this together. I trust you. His small voice solidified her resolve. With trembling fingers, she swiped the screen to answer, her heart thudding like a drum in her chest. Hello, she said, the word barely escaping her lips. Claire. The voice on the other end was deep and smooth, a sound that sent shivers of familiarity racing down her spine. It's been a long time. What do you want? She demanded, her stomach churning. I just want to talk. Can we meet? There's a lot to explain. She glanced at John and Jake, their faces filled with concern. No, I've made it clear. I don't want anything to do with you. There was a pause, then a chilly chuckle. You think you can just cut me out? I know where you live, Claire. I'm not going anywhere. Her breathing hitched. She could hear the unspoken threat in his tone, the looming shadow of danger hanging over their heads. "If you come near us, I'm not here to harm you," he interrupted, the smoothness gone from his voice. "I just need to talk. Just one meeting. For old time's sake." "No. Think about your little boy. What if he were to find himself in a situation he shouldn't he? I wouldn't he want that. Would you?" Clara's mouth went dry. It felt like a line had been crossed without her even realizing it. She wanted to scream, to lash out. But her mind raced with the possibility of what this could do to Jake. "Fine. One meeting." Her voice trembled, but there was no turning back now. "Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Park by the old fountain," he said, and before she could respond, he hung up, heart pounding. Claire dropped the phone onto the table. "I said yes," she blurted out, feeling sick to her stomach. John stepped closer, his brow furrowed. "You shouldn't he have done that. This is serious." "I know," she snapped, desperation overtaking her. "But what other choice do I have? I'll just keep pushing. I had to protect you both." Jake's eyes widened, and for the first time, Claire saw fear etched across his small face. "Mom, are you really gonna go? What if he tries to take you away?" Tears pricked at the corners of Claire's eyes. "I'm not going to let that happen, Jake. Promise." John squeezed her shoulder, searching her eyes for answers. "Whatever happens, we'll stand by you. You're not alone in this." She nodded, grateful for their support but terrified of what lay ahead. That night, sleep eluded her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw her brother's face in their childhood home, playing games, laughing, then fading into shadows of betrayal and hurt. The memories clashed with the reality of who he had become, a man tangled in darkness. Morning light broke, but it felt heavy with anticipation. The garden echoed with the sounds of children giggling outside. Claire fought the urge to join them, to forget this looming confrontation, but she knew she couldn't run from it. She looked out the window. John stood beside her, a steady presence. "You've got this," he said softly. "We'll be right here for you." "Yeah," Jake added, determination swirling in his eyes. "You can do it, Mom. We believe in you." With a deep breath, Claire nodded. What would she say to him? How could she defend her family? The time ticked closer, every second pounding in her chest. She glanced at the clock, then back to the park outside, where laughter still danced in the air. But beneath her resolve lay a complex web of emotions: fear, anger, and a sliver of hope. She had to confront her past to protect her future. She would face him and be ready for whatever came next. As she prepared, a thought emerged. What if this meeting unraveled more than just her old ties? What if it unveiled secrets not just about him but about herself? Little did she know, the confrontation would lead to revelations she never expected, forcing her to reconsider everything she thought she knew about love, trust, and her own identity. With one final look at her family, she stepped towards a future that brimmed with uncertainty. Would her brother's return bring more than just danger? Would it lead to the truth about who she was meant to be? As she opened the door, the sun shone down on her, a touch of warmth amidst the cold reality awaiting her. "Let us do this," she whispered, feeling the weight of the world shift once again. Tomorrow would change everything. Would she be ready for it? The park was bathed in golden afternoon light as Claire pulled into the lot, her heart bouncing like a pinball in her chest. The fountain bubbled behind her, gurgling sweet melodies reminiscent of childhood joy. But today that joy felt like an illusion, a specter frolicking just outside her grasp. John and Jake waited in a nearby car, their expressions a mix of concern and unwavering support. Claire inhaled deeply, summoning every bit of courage she had. Her phone vibrated, breaking the solemn silence. The screen displayed a text. "I'm here." His words sent a chill racing down her spine. But no turning back. With each step towards the fountain, she steeled herself against the memories that had haunted her for years. What lay ahead was an unbidden reunion fraught with uncertainty. Could love endure the tumult of their fractured past? She hesitated for a brief moment, recalling her promise to herself, to them. This meeting wasn't just about her brother. It was about reclaiming the life they deserved, built on truth rather than lies. And then she saw him, a figure at the edge of the crowd. He stood tall, shadows lurking in his presence. Years had transformed him into someone unrecognizable, a ghost of the brother she once cherished. "Claire," he called, voice tinged with a mix of charm and menace. The old familiarity felt threatening, and her vision narrowed on him, unwilling to show fear. "Let us keep this simple," she responded, trying to keep her voice steady, yet it quivered at the edges. "I don't want any complications." He chuckled, a sound that sent shivers down her back. "Complications? Claire, family is complicated. You should know that by now." She clenched her fists, memories flooding her mind, laughter and sunshine intertwined with betrayal. Friends turned foes. "I've built a life. And I won't let you take that away," she said fiercely, fighting an avalanche of doubt. With each word, the solidity of her resolve fortified. She felt John and Jake's presence behind her, a reminder that this battle was not hers alone to fight. But he pressed further, voice dripping with manipulation. "You've built your little family, but you've also built walls. You're hiding behind them, and it's a lonely place to be. You know that's not who you are." He stepped closer, challenging her resolve as she took a breath to break the tension. "No. I'm here because I'm ready to embrace truth and vulnerability," Claire responded, feeling fiercer than ever. "But if you think you can waltz back into my life, you're mistaken." His smile widening like a shark as he tried to get under her skin. "What's the cost? Allow me into your life again. I could offer you power. Together we could reclaim what we lost." "No." Her response rang out strong and defiant. "That's not how this works anymore." Suddenly, John stepped forward, breaking the barrier she thought only she had to protect. "You don't get to dictate the terms of our family, not anymore. We've all come too far for deceit to creep back in." Jake joined, stepping beside his parents, unwavering trust shining in his youthful eyes. "Family is about love, not manipulation. You don't get to define who we are." The confrontation shifted, the shadows that loomed around them contrasting with the bright unity of their stance. Claire felt the warm currents of overflowing love steady her, giving her newfound strength. "What do you think you will achieve with threats?" She spat back, no longer cowering in fear. "Love is our armor. You can't undermine that." For a moment her brother faltered, uncertainty ghosting across his features. "And what do you think you can do against the past? It's not something you can erase." "It's not about erasing." Claire's voice rang out like a clarion call. "It's about growing strong from it. We face our pasts, all of us. And that means confronting you." Moments stretched, the tension coiling tighter around them. His smile faltered, the mask slipping just enough for Claire to see the cracks. "So be it," he said, finally stepping back. "But know this, I will be watching. Your little life isn't as safe as you think." With those words he turned, leaving the park and taking the shadows with him. They lingered as they walked away, but Claire felt lighter, as if unseen weights had been cast off her shoulders. John and Jake ambled toward her, relief flooding their faces alongside pride. "You did it," John said, his voice thick with emotion. Together they embraced, each soul intertwining, understanding that this was just the beginning of a new chapter. Jake beamed up at his mother. "I knew you could do it." In that moment they stood united, a family strengthened by love and honesty. They had faced darkness but emerged into the light, resolute in their commitment to one another. Each heartbeat echoed a truth that would carry them forward. They were a tapestry woven with resilience, ready to confront whatever came their way. And as laughter rang out across the park, the warmth stretching toward them like a loving embrace, Claire felt renewed. They would build their story together, one of hope, honesty, and connection. And so, with hearts intertwined and unwavering promises made, they stepped back into the sunlit world. The weight had lifted, and the future sparkled vibrantly ahead. Now is the time for you to be part of this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Comment your reactions and feelings about this. Ending your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support for a community built on love and vulnerability. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.